In Flutter, everything is considered as a widget, and widget is a building block of any Flutter application. With the combination of multiple widgets, we will be developing a complete screen of the Flutter application. So widget can be any visible component, and it can also be any invisible component that may contain some other widgets. But when we try to classify different widgets, there are two different kinds of widgets. One is the stateless widget and another one is the stateful widget. So in this video, we are going to discuss about the stateless widget. So as the name implies that within the stateless widget is one of the widgets that doesn't maintain any kind of the state. And if it maintains a state, it will be in the form of different variables. But in the stateless widgets, there is no any state being maintained there. And no matter which type of the widget it is, in a Flutter, widget can be created by extending it from any of the two classes, either a stateless widget or a stateful widget. So in order to create a stateless widget, what we need to do is to create a class which will extend from a class which is already defined as a stateless widget. So we may create as a class, then we may define the name of the class. Let's say I will say it is my widget, and then extends stateless widget, and this is how the class would look like. But instead of writing it down the entire class snippet, we may use the shortcut within the Visual Studio Code. If we want to create a stateless widget, we can just write down STL, and just for the first option that appears, that click over there and it will create the entire class by itself. So class, and then we just need to redefine it. We need to provide a name for this widget. Let's say this time we want to define my app as the name of the widget. So if we carefully look at this particular widget, so in this case there is a class named my app which is extending from stateless widget. So when it extends from this class, this my app becomes a widget, and by default it is having a one constructor, as the name of this method is same as the class name. So this is the constructor there, and it receives one of the argument known as the key argument. So key is just like an ID of this particular widget, and it is a unique identity provided to every different widget, so that the Flutter system can recognize and differentiate between different widgets within a widget tree. So this is how the constructor looks like, and this particular whenever we extend the class from the stateless widget, we just need to override one special method known as the build method. So we are overriding a build method. So the name of the method is a build and the return type is a widget. So the build method is responsible for creating the user interface for this complete widget. Or we can normally conclude or decide that what happens whenever this widget is created, it will be decided by the build method, and it receives one of the argument as the build context. So it is some contextual information that will be dealing in some later videos. So right now just a build method is there having a return type widget. So if it is having a return type widget, so it must return something, and then that something must be of class widget. So widget is an abstract class, so either we can create the object of this class, but that is not possible because it is an abstract class. So any class which extends the widget class, we can provide the object of that particular class. So there are so many classes there which are extending from the widget class there. The text widget, center widget, material lab, scaffold, so any widget that you can consider is ultimately derived from this widget class. Let's say in this case you are writing down the text widget, so it will be returned there. So within this case we are writing down some text. So in this case, when this widget is built there, it will return this text widget. So only in this case, in case of the stateless widget, we are just maintaining, we are not maintaining any of this state there, and stateless widgets are created just by extending a single class, that is a stateless widget. So no any special state objects are there, and then whenever we are extending this class, we need to implement one special method known as the build method, and it must return one widget that will be considered as the root of this particular complete widget there. Now once we have defined a class there, so now my app becomes one stateless widget. So you can create this widget by just creating the object of this particular class. So my app just like this one. So within the run app method, we are creating the object of my app class. In Java, we were writing it down as a new keyword and then the name of the object, but in the Dart language, we may skip the new keyword, and this is one of the object being created from this particular class there. And as discussed earlier, that if you are using the text widget without the material app class, then we need to define another property as well, that is the text direction. So text direction is text direction dot left to right, and we may also provide the style to this particular text there. But right now, let's say just we are sticking with this particular text widget, and if we run this particular application in the emulator, then we may see the results as is. So we have a black screen, and there is a small text written behind the hello flutter that is being written in response to this particular code. If you want to increase the text size there, so we may define the style property, that is the text style, and within the text style we may specify the font weight property or the font size property, let's say 60.0, and then again hot reload the code. So here we see that the text has been displayed there in return to this particular code, and here we have a class which is representing a stateless widget, and within that one we have defined a build method, and this is how we create a stateless widget. And if we see the details, that in Flutter, as we say that there are two different types of widget, the stateless and stateful. Stateless widget is one which does not have any state being maintained, or whose state cannot be changed once it is built there. So that will be the stateless widget, and we will create it by extending from the stateless widget class. And when we try to create that particular widget, what happens is the constructor of that particular widget is called, and right after the constructor the build method will be called to generate the interface or the contents of that particular widget. So this is how the stateless widget is created in Flutter.